gosh, this is the hardest question ever. I'm not used to talking about myself. I'm nervous. I was pretending to be a personal injury attorney, I guess. I remember I would just break into sweat because I wasn't used to it. I wasn't comfortable like being so close to someone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cristina Perez Hesano, and this is Verdicts Vogue. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you to Lorie Valdez. She is the perfect blend of grace, intelligence, and drive. She's also the president of business development at Standup MRI. Welcome.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Thank you, Cristina. I'm honored to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. So how does it feel to be on that side?
I'm nervous.
So for those who don't know, Lorie has her own podcast that she's been doing for years. She's actually been the inspiration for me to start my own podcast. And she does a fine job.
Thank you.
How is your podcast going?
It's going great. I'm learning to, I think I'm finally a little more comfortable with it. It's always been, the day that I'm filming, I still get nervous, and I just had to learn to just listen to what I'm asking, like whatever I'm asking, wait for them to respond. And then, my next question would come from there, when before it was like just moving on to the next question because I didn't really hear what you said. So I guess that's telling me that I'm learning to relax.
It is a skill that you learn, right? And
yes.
I know when we first started, there was a ton, and we still do a ton of takes. It's never ever perfect. But when you first start, you're so worried about saying the right words, saying the right things. And then you finally start learning and getting into your own, like feeling the right way in your own skin. And I think that's like the biggest part, because then people can see, who are listening, they can not only see you, but then also understand like the whole podcast and your guests as well.
Right. Yes.
But a little birdie told me that you actually have a family member who was into radio.
Yes, that's my dad, my inspiration. So my dad started this years ago in Spanish, and he did radio, TV for many years. And so I guess I learned from him.
Did you watch him when you were younger?
I would watch him. I'm very proud of my dad. And it was just, I guess one day I was sitting down watching TV, and I saw a commercial that was for another imaging center. And I was like, oh, that would be cool to have a commercial, but we're not very big, so it wouldn't make sense. And then all of a sudden, this light bulb was like, well, what about a podcast? So that's where I thought, like, hey, wouldn't it be nice if, I interview an attorney, and then I have doctors listening, and then if I'm interviewing a doctor, all the attorneys are listening. So it's a win-win, and that's always my goal. My goal's always been to make it a win-win.
Well, I think that you take that attitude of win-win for not only the customers, but also providers, and then also attorneys in the personal injury space. You take that attitude throughout everything, not only in your podcast, but just in general. Because when someone asks me, okay, tell us about Lorie, what I want them to know, like, I think your biggest strength is the gift that you have with people and bringing people together.
Well, yes, thank you. I guess, just trying to prepare for this, that has been my goal. My goal is to highlight others, because I have learned through the years that when you highlight others, it actually reflects on you and it helps you. It's been a blessing for me to work with professionals in our industry like you, that are mentors that I learn from. And I feel like I could learn something from everyone. And then what can I do? Like, I always look for the common ground. Like, hey, what's our common ground? Where can I connect with this person? Because I've learned that a lot of people could communicate, but not everybody is able to connect. So my goal is always to connect. And then, like I said, find our common ground. And then how can I highlight you? And that's always my goal.
And with this podcast that you have, how long have you been doing it?
So I started in 2019, which was a huge blessing because that's when I got like that light bulb, like, oh, why don't you do this? And it was perfect timing because then fast forward, we all went through COVID and, a lot of offices were closed. So by then, April 2019, I had my videos going and Standup MRI was doing great because, I was being watched by, our personal injury space.
Sure. And I don't think many people know. So most people who, when you mention your name, they know, oh, I know Lorie Valdez. And they know you as Lorie Valdez, a stand-up MRI. And I think you are an amazing person when it comes to, well, you're an amazing person overall, but when it comes to business development, you have like this gift of growing the practice. I don't think many people know your story though, from how you were before, because you grew into that space. You've
Correct.
made a name for stand-up MRI.
Right.
So tell us from the beginning how you got into the personal injury space.
Okay, so from the very beginning, so I've been in the personal injury space for 30 years. I started from
Don't
the
age
very
us, girl.
bottom.
Don't age us.
From the very bottom. I started off as a receptionist and for a personal injury attorney. So, that's where I learned the terminology. And I remember sitting there and a marketer walked in, a very successful marketer. And she walked in and was super nice. And when she walked out, she met with the attorney and the staff. And then she walked out of there and I'm like, what does she do? Like, who is she? And I want to do that. And it was just something that just, it just clicked. And
Was
I'm
there
like,
something about her that you remember or recall that sparking your interest?
yes, she was just very pleasant. And everyone was so happy to see her. It was like she walked in and everybody was like, oh, hi, and then, I learned, because this was in the very beginning, I really didn't, understand, how an attorney and a provider, how they could collaborate, like I didn't really get that. So it was just really nice to see her spark, and I remember she was glowing and everybody was so happy to just chat with her. And then,
Being a marketer is not an easy task, because a lot of people say in the space, they say, oh, I market for so-and-so, or I'm a marketer. But being a real business development person is hard work.
It is. A lot of people tell me that I make my job look really easy.
You do.
But they don't see, like everything that comes with it. And in order for you to be a successful marketer, you have to have followers. So you're pretty much a leader, right? And you can't be a leader if you don't have anyone following you. So you have to do a very good job. And that's how it shows. It's a lot of dedication and you have to be consistent, but you have to believe in your product. And that's something else that you have to have a gift for.
Yeah, that's a very good point. It's not just doing the work, it's also standing behind the product and the service that you're providing.
Right. You have to believe in it.
Exactly. And so now you're the receptionist. This glowing woman walks in and she said, everyone's happy to see her.
Right.
And you get a spark that says, I want to do that.
Right.
So then what?
So then I worked for a company as a public adjuster. And I learned more about personal injury. But
you were a public adjuster.
I was.
Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know this.
Yes. And then I had to go out and find my own clients.
And for those who don't know what a public adjuster is, can you tell us what that entails?
It's funny when I say it. So a public adjuster can help represent third-party injury claims. I was settling cases. So you do everything from beginning to end, from property damage to bills and records to negotiations and settling the case. So I was pretending to be a personal injury attorney, I guess,
Well, within the realm, right?
Yes. So now I'm like, hey, I feel really bad for those people because, that was allowed back then. And, now I understand why that was no longer allowed. I believe in 1999 is when all that came to an end. And now everyone, must have proper representation.
And so in 1999, then did you move into another space? Did you start working for someone else?
I did. In 1999, I went to go work for a chiropractor. And there I learned the medical side of it. And I remember at first, it was really, really hard for me because I had always worked, in a law firm. Like I said, I started off as a receptionist and moved on to pre-litigation, marketing, and public adjusting, and going to the medical side was very uncomfortable for me because at that point I was helping, like place patients on traction, putting them on the roller table. So I'm like, I remember I would just break into sweat because I wasn't comfortable like being so close to someone.
But for those who don't know, putting someone on traction these are all modalities that are available at a chiropractor's office.
Right. And so then I actually learned to love it. And I loved my job. I worked with a great doctor. Shout out to Dr. Josh Haggard. The Haggards, his grandfather was the very first chiropractor here in Arizona. So they're very well known, the last name.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned so much. Him and his wife are amazing people. And then I worked there for about 9 years, and I learned, every part of what that entailed. And working for SCP Chiropractic, I met one of the owners to Standup MRI. And then that's when my journey at Standup MRI began.
Do you remember what year that was?
Yes, I started in 2008.
So in 2008, mm-hmm. I know that you've grown Standup MRI from mm-hmm. what it is to now having how many locations?
So right now we have 2 locations, mm-hmm. But we have 3 magnets. And then we also contract out, and we are in Tucson and Yuma.
And you have, so here in Phoenix, you have the 3T MRI yes. magnet, and then you have also the open magnets at the initial location.
So we have the Standup MRI in Peoria, mm-hmm. which the Standup MRI that's why it's called... my podcast, Stand Up with Lorie, because we do have the Stand-Up MRI magnet, which is great for claustrophobic patients, larger size patients. There's nothing in front of you. You're sitting down just like I am here. There's a TV in front of you. It's not as loud. So, if someone is claustrophobic, they could just get up and walk right out. But it's great because it's the only magnet that could offer flexion and extension for the cervical and lumbar. You cannot do that laying down. Mm-hmm. True. And it's twice more powerful than a regular open MRI. So
the power of it's beneficial because it's more sensitive to picking up if there's any
yes.
acute injury or
and
any type
I
of injury.
Love that magnet. I feel it's great. We do have the 3T, and I have 2 3Ts, which I really pride myself on those.
Oh, I didn't realize you had 2 already.
Yes.
Oh.
We have 2 in Phoenix.
Okay.
Running at the same time. So
awesome.
That's great. And that's great for the brain with the TBI protocol, extremities. But the beauty behind if we go back to the stand-up MRI, is you're sitting down and it's a way of life. So for instance, you're going to have your client that say, hey, I have a lot of pain, but it only hurts when I put pressure to the right. So we could actually set patients in their position of pain and take pictures and, find the hidden cause. So it's a great, MRI machine. And that's how, this whole Stand Up with Lorie and send to Lorie at Stand Up. And that's why I decided to keep the name when we expanded to Phoenix, and we have the 2 3Ts. I didn't want to change the name because that was already branded.
Yeah. And so when you started with Stand Up MRI, you then took over the whole the business development portion of it. And you grew the business. I don't think people understand. And I am, as a business owner, taking myself back from being an attorney, as a business owner, what you've done in that amount of time from 2008 when you started till today, I think is fascinating. And you don't have to get into the specifics, I know, but how were you able to grow that business the way you did?
So I started this in 2008. I met with one of the owners, and I'm like, hey, here's my vision. This is my goal. I loved working with the chiro. It was just, I had my son was 2 years old. So I had a new love in my life. And I didn't want to work the long hours. I had a chiropractic office. You go in at 8 and you come home at 8 p.m., So I wanted something closer to home and spend a little more time with my son. So I said, hey, I want to start this lean department here at Standup MRI. I explained
they didn't have a lean department before?
Not.
Oh,
they
wow.
did not have
Okay.
They had no idea what a lean was.
And for those who are listening, can you please explain what a lean means?
So a lien pretty much means we're not getting paid until your case settles. We record a lien with the Maricopa County office, and we wait on payment until the case is settled.
And it's not through insurance; it's actually
settlement
yeah. on a personal injury case.
Right. So I said, hey, here's my vision. This is what I would like to do, and I promised hundreds of cases. And for the first year, it was dead because I did have a lot of friends in our industry, but we know that our friends don't refer to us when we start. I learned that. And it's not because they don't want to. It's just, they already have their people. Sure. But also, I have to say, 17 years back, it was like pulling teeth from chiros to refer out for MRIs because they didn't really understand it.
And I know some chiros still do this. They have their own X-ray machines in office, and they'll do their own X-rays and think that's good enough.
Yes. So they would. They had their way of doing things,
by the way.
And so it was just a different time. I would sit there and show them like, hey, this is how you fill out the form, and this is what contrast means, and the different types of brain studies, and just guide them through the process. So it took some time. It was not easy. I'm so forever grateful with Dave Longley, which is, he is one of the investors at Standup MRI, and my boss. He makes a joke and he's like, you work with me. Why are you calling me boss? But it's just great. I brought this whole project, and he has given me his support, like 100% support. And then I just started knocking on doors, and, they started opening. And there was a point at Stand Up MRI where we were open 7, we are open now, but back, this is when we first like, hey, we're doing great. We're open 7 days a week. I had patients coming from Chandler, Mesa. And that's when we decided, hey, we need another magnet downtown. And that was 5 years ago.
I can't believe it's already been 5 years. Yes. I remember when you opened the new location.
Yes, that was 5 years ago. And we're still, just thriving. Everything's going great. We have the 2 locations. And it comes down to offering the best customer service and knowing every angle of the business when it comes to personal injury. I know how important it is to get patients in a timely fashion. I know how important it is to send out bills and records in a timely fashion. And also the importance of being a team player at the end when it comes to settling. I feel like those are the 3 main keys for success.
Oh, and you've, I know this just because I'm your friend also outside of this podcast.
Yes.
That you've had a record year. This year was your record year.
Yes.
And you have done just some great things. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't think people understand the amount of work that has gone into creating what you've created in such a short amount of time. And I don't know if anyone else could have done it besides.
Well, thank you. It has been 17 years.
That's, but still.
But it is great. I look back and I'm like, wow, hard work does pay off. And I'm grateful that I had this vision. And I had the faith to keep going, daily. There was times where I'm not going to lie, there was days when you do feel like giving up. But then like I always go back to like, hey, like, no, this dream was instilled in me. And that means, like God has given me, he will give me the tools to complete it.
And I think that's really important for those, and not just for someone who's in marketing, but just for in everyday life, being in business, starting out, trying to find your first legal job, trying to grow a different department and where it is. The ability to continue even though it's not happening yet.
Right.
and just keep on going.
Yes.
What advice you give to either someone who's looking to get into the marketing space or someone who is just having difficulty growing that part of the business, or it's not happening yet?
That's where we'll pause part 1. Next week, Lorie brings the mindset, the hustle, and the faith. You're going to want to hear part 2.